Good morning, everybody. This is the Oskar Quentin Debate Live, where I talk to people about politics and related topics on TikTok Live. There aren't really any rules, and the prompt doesn't matter. People just call in, and we see how it goes. Is there news today? I don't know. Fridays are always tough for me. I have a gig I do on Thursday nights, so I'm always tired, potentially hungover on Fridays. I find I do okay running the show when I'm tired. That's not what I meant to click. I'm always surprised by that. Hello, everybody on YouTube. Got some mod issues we're trying to figure out because I cannot find one of my mods on YouTube to add them as a moderator over there. If the mods are listening, I am working on that in the background. But let's just make sure. Okay, we got both streams alive. Good, which means I can close this because it's working. I can get my resources up in case people want to fact check things. Oh, man, the workload on that has really piled up. I need to organize some of my sources better. I have a bunch of to-do list items about that. Papa Crazy said the U.S. economy added 172,000 jobs last month, shattering expectations. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. I should look into those numbers. The jobs reports have been pretty bad in Trump's administration. 172,000 does sound like a bigger number than normal. That does sound like good news. There's difficulty with certain economic indicators, like jobs reports and things like that, because you also have to consider the quality of the jobs. Like there's sometimes confounding data about that, where if the economy is struggling, people are more desperate for work. So unemployed people will take crappier jobs because they're desperate. So it gets a little hairy. But in general, good jobs report sounds good. So I'll have to look into that. If that's the news of the day. What day is today? Today's Friday. That's right. And that means people are still in school. Are people still in school? I don't know. I know some schools are out and some are not. It'll be interesting to see with the way that the show changes as the summer approaches, because I'm new at this. I've only been debate live streaming since February, so I don't actually know how it goes once kids are completely out of session, because the weekend shows tend to be a little chaotic with children trolling the show, which is, whatever. Mama Avery, can I click your name and add moderator? Yes, I can. Fantastic. Managing moderator. Done. Perfect. Good. I can do it directly through OBS. That's fantastic. And do we have... Yeah, well, there's some other people in this chat who should be added as moderator. Oh my God, thanks for the money gun. I really appreciate that. We're off to a good start. I will say to people who are watching on YouTube who are maybe new to the stream, there's a couple things I keep forgetting to put at the beginning of the VOD, which is, one, you should timestamp your comments because it makes the show more interactive. That's good for me. I am trying to get engagement by saying that, but when you comment something, do comment with a timestamp so people can click on it and see if they agree with you or not, because it's a 2-hour show. Furthermore, that pinned comment always has the call start time. So if you're bored sitting here listening to me yap, you can just click on the pinned comment. It'll show you when the calls start. And then in the description, I put timestamps for all of the oppositional calls. Sometimes there's a little sneaky friendly call in there, and I tend not to timestamp those because for the most part... Oh, did I get the bleeps to stop? I was supposed to. I forgot. Apparently, Diava Talks sent me a tutorial on how to turn it off because I knew the feature existed. I'd reviewed the settings before and it was there. TikTok just turned bleeping on for everybody yesterday. We don't really know what the deal with that is. My situation with it is that YouTube doesn't hear the bleeps. One of my 2 local recordings, because I do a redundant recording of the show, has the bleeps and the other doesn't. So sometimes I was editing clips this morning, and I actually have been adding the bleeps to some of the shorts because it makes them funnier, I think. But I probably won't stick around doing that. I think that's just kind of the trendy news this week with how TikTok Live is going. Giava Talks looked it up just for me. She's in the chat. Sorry. Yeah, I saw it and I was like, oh, that's important. I'll do that. And then I completely forgot. So anyway, here we are. Let's see. Nobody in the call queue yet. 4 minutes in. That's not terribly unusual. Midwest Progressive said the bleeps are kind of fun. They are. It is a funny sounding bleep. I was listening to the clips of me talking to that pick-me girl yesterday who supports Charlie Kirk, and it was just very funny listening to me get upset with her being a self-hating woman, and the bleeping I felt did add to it a little bit. But I'll get it sorted out because as much as it's kind of a fun gag, I really don't want the show to be bleeped. It's just I want these conversations to be pure and unedited. That's why my clips are all monolithic. There's no cuts. I have never once uploaded a debate clip that featured a cut of any kind. It's always an actual raw, on-the-spot moment. Because at the end of the day, the clips are meant to advertise the fact that I am articulate and able to pace the conversation in a way that's entertaining. And I think it's maybe a better clip, but not as good advertising if you cut the dead air and all that stuff. River James, first stream over on YouTube, and you watch all my videos on Instagram. Well, welcome. Yeah, you get to see the long form. You get to see how frequently I'm that entertaining, because it's not all the time. Right now we're sitting here without a caller yapping about, meta topics, talking on the stream about the stream. Let's see. She thought the doctor was crashing out too. Yeah, we had an OBGYN come up and crash out on a pick-me girl. And I guess, it's the danger you run by crashing out. I'm pretty selective with my crash outs. The crash outs are generally performative. I don't really have a temper. I control myself on the show. Not every host does. Some people really fucking lose their temper, and that's how they get their clips. But for the most part, there are valid crash outs, right? Like when people say like, oh, you crashed out, therefore you lost. It's like, no, dude, like some things are just worse crashing out. Did I spell regressive correctly? Is that what the chat's saying? I've had typos on the sign before and had to redraw them mid-show. It's very embarrassing, but I'm only human. It happens. What do I think of Kevin O'Leary's 2 data centers, one in Utah and one in Alberta? Data centers are touchy. We do need data centers for internet infrastructure and stuff. But the problem right now is, of course, that AI is not benefiting society, and AI is creating a need for ridiculous amounts of data centers, which are themselves really damaging to the communities that they're in. So I'm like definitely on team fuck these data centers trying to fuck up people's communities. I also recognize that that doesn't mean we should abolish data centers. We just have to make them pay for their cost, right? Like if they're using lots of water, if they have an environmental footprint, they need to counteract that in some way that's sustainable. Like we just need to, same thing I feel about anything else, right? The factories had to learn this in the Industrial Revolution. We've gotten better about waste dumping and stuff like that. The data centers are a new thing, so they're not regulated as well. We need to play a little bit of catch up on getting those sorts of things regulated. Good morning, Elysians. Eli, I can never what is wrong with my brain that I can never decipher usernames? It's a total mental block I have. It's debilitating for my job. You've got the censor beeps on. Yeah, is it something I can turn off live on the show? Because for everybody listening, it is like a new thing. TikTok just dumped it on everybody yesterday. Oh, we do have somebody in the request queue. So let's talk to the letter C and see how old the letter C is. How old are you?
What's up?
Doing all right?
I'm 24.
Elysianus. Sorry, I had to say it out loud to get that usernames right in the chat. Elysianus. Thank you, Elysianus. Anyway, sorry, how old are you, C?
I am 24, good sir.
24. Do you support Trump?
No.
Oh, mostly just looking for oppositional calls, so I'm going to let you down for now. After 11:30 Central Time, which is about an hour and a half from now, I kind of loosen up the rules, but especially early in the stream, it's important to get a debate about Trump going, because that's what people expect for the show. It's as the show goes on, I get looser and looser about what topics I will allow, but for the most part, this is a right and left issue, and the callers I hope to take in the beginning of the show are people who are on the other side of that left and right issue. Lately, I've been spending a lot of time talking to people who are also on the left, but in a different place on the left, and that I find is just not productive. It can be. There's important stuff to talk about there, but that's, Will says Central Time isn't real. What is the deal with it? I've lived here forever. No, I haven't lived here forever. I've lived here for 10 years, and people say Central Standard Time. That's kind of just what I called it, and somebody pointed out to me that Central Standard Time's not right, because it's Central Daylight Time now, because Daylight Savings has happened. So is it Central Standard Time half the year and Central Daylight Time the other half of the year? Because if that's the case, I would like to just call it Central Time, CT. Am I wasting time talking about this? Are you just doubting the existence of the Midwest? Maybe the mods are fucking with me. Okay, what else is going on in the chat? Oh my god, we have so many mods today. Everybody's here. Everybody showed up today. Hello, everybody. W in the chat for the mods. They make the show happen. There's two groups of people who make the show really happen in a functional way where the show could not happen at all if they didn't do that, and it's the mods for helping run the show, and a bunch of other people who don't necessarily have mod privileges, but do make the show easier by helping out in the chat and helping out on the Discord. And then of course there's the donors. I could give myself an early commercial in the show and say that there's ways in the link tree to support the fact that I do this as my full-time job now, because I'm Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this coming week, I'll be 1 p.m. Central Time instead of 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, because those are my last 4 days at my day job in the morning. because I've quit that job to do this show full time. And, we're going to see if that was worthwhile. And we're going to talk to Vedran. He'll tell us maybe how to pronounce his name after he tells us how old he or she is. If he connects, there we go. How old are you?
Nigger.
So, that's your average Trump supporter on this Friday, is just that. So, Perils are running a live show. It's very funny that the bleep system doesn't bleep the guest, even if they do that. But that happens a lot. Slow show today. I wonder what's going on. Maybe my interest is waning. Maybe everybody's mad at me for being so mean to that lady yesterday. I think I was rightfully mean to that lady yesterday. We love the TikTok shop. Everybody say we love the TikTok shop up in the chat, because it's, gotta please the gods. What we really need to do over on TikTok is get double tapping on the screen so we can get pushed out to the For You page. I know we're not pushed out on the For You page at this time, because I can always tell, because I start getting a bump in new followers. We've got 140 people watching on TikTok, and only 2 of them have followed me since the beginning of the stream, and those numbers suggest to me that it is only my followers watching, because usually it's a much bigger number than that. So I hate to pester, but but I'm not famous enough yet that I have a constant stream of chuds to talk to. It does dry up every now and again. And of course, once we get somebody in, then the show really takes off, because then I don't have to pester. The conversation's just entertaining enough. To those over on YouTube, I appreciate you being patient, because there's nothing you guys can do to help. Somebody says Dean is way meaner. Don't worry. I just think he has a different strategy. I try not to clown on the guest. I try not to attack their character until their character has so thoroughly been demonstrated to be bad that there's just I'm out of productive things to say. So then I can start, just maybe, we'll doing maybe a wee bit of trash talking or get a dig in here or there. But for the most part, I just try to engage with what people actually think about what's going on. I don't know. I do hope I talk to Kenzie more. I got a concession out of her, which is interesting. I actually got her to concede on her point about women being more emotional than men, which was a rare W, especially with so reprehensible a caller as Kenzie. By the way, everybody, I did lie on the show yesterday. I pretended not to know who Kenzie is. I know who Kenzie is. I've listened to the other hosts. I know Kenzie. I just find the conversation to be... Sometimes it's constructive for me to start by saying, yes, I know who you are. I know what your talking points are. I know where you're coming from. And sometimes it's better to just let them, first of all, be a little bummed I don't know who they are. That's like a little bit of a mind game I play. Because they're all very proud of how well they've made the rounds on the lives and how well known they are. But it also just gives them an opportunity to really clean slate their ideas and try to start from the beginning and convince me of what they want without any sort of foundation that maybe the audience doesn't have. I think it makes a better show. Somebody says the clowning is cringe. That's why we like you. Well, I try. I mean, it's my flavor, so I appreciate that you guys like my flavor of debate show. Ozzy the Boxer says, I'm a very soft man. I think Ozzy the Boxer should click the request button on his screen. It's down here to the right of the comment section, the little pink and blue head. I think you should click that, and you and I can have a conversation about, I don't know, I guess the question isn't even whether I'm soft. The question is it important if I'm soft? Why does that matter to you? Do you spend a lot of time looking at men on the internet and, judging their physiques? Is that what, I mean, that's fine. That's allowed if you want to just look at, dudes on the internet and make an assessment about their bodies. That's allowed. I can be a sex object for you if you want. I'm not personally interested. I'm into women personally, but whatever floats your boat. I don't care what people watch my videos. Wait, hold on. What's Muse saying? I would love to talk about why you dedicate your life to hating Trump. Yeah, if you want to do that, you can hit the request button on your screen. It's the little pink and blue head down there. I don't really get into debates with the chat. It's just not good radio. But I would love to talk about why I've dedicated my life to hating Trump, because it's true. I have. I completely dedicated my life to hating on Trump. It's a little bigger than Trump, but we can talk about that if you want to. Yeah. Gossamerin says you're scared. I wasn't going to say it, but now I'm going to say it. I think you are scared. I think people like to come in and prompt things like that, but I don't know. If you're not, I'm not mean to guests who are less articulate necessarily. I know that I'm a fast talker. I know I'm conversationally an adversary in a way That has nothing to do with my politics and has nothing to do with my arguments. I am just good at talking. But when I detect that if your reason for not clicking the request button is because you think I'm just going to immediately yammer at you and bite your head off, go watch my show. That's not really how I handle it. I kind of start with a calm, neutral tone with everybody, and I try to stay at the same speed as the guest. And sometimes I speed it up a little bit if they start saying reprehensible things and I start putting the pressure on. But for the most part, if you just want to have a real genuine chat about it, that's real genuine chat is the tone I try to start every conversation with if I don't know who the caller is. Yeah, Muse, you're just continuing to ask questions that would be great topics for the show that I'm just not going to answer because they're in the chat. So you're getting muted for the day because the reason I mute you is because I want to platform you. I want you to come onto my show and ask me these things, and we can have a very real conversation about how all these things you care about. But I'm not going to sit here talking to the chat. It's just not a good show. MAG is regressive, but so is being affiliated with either party. Political parties are regressive. Yeah. More people probably also on the left who want to disagree with me about where we are on the left in a way that's not constructive and doesn't put the fire out. I'm not really interested in doing that at the beginning of the show. We can maybe do that at the end of the show. Muse doesn't have guest access. He needs to come back with more followers. Yeah, okay. Well, keep hopping around on TikTok. Sorry for muting you. I'm going to leave you muted for the day because it's just not what I'm looking for in the chat today. Let's see. No, nobody in the queue. That's it. Got them all. Got all the MAGA supporters. Katie sent me $10 on YouTube Super Chat just to say the right not comprehending that SNAP is needed is insane. Charities can't cover everything and rely on donations, and when people are broke, they can't donate. Yeah. I agree completely. I mean, there seems to just be a mindset of individual who's very resistant to the notion that an argument for a program like SNAP can be so simple as it makes the world better. Just on average, everybody's life is better if we do those things. So it's good, we should do it. And they're like, but it's not fair. And it's like, fuck you, life isn't fair, right? Who cares? Aren't these the same people who tell us life isn't fair when we bring them our problems that were caused by some external thing? The world as an external thing isn't fair to people. It's a nasty, capricious bitch, that Mother Nature. We don't have a naturally fair go of it in life. So we try to do things in society that reduce the ways in which life isn't fair. We're just trying to make life more fair for people. Because if you're somebody who can't even comprehend that SNAP benefits are good, you're necessarily privileged. You're necessarily somebody who has privilege in a way that isn't fair. You must have gone through life in such a way that you got something that you for some reason think you deserve, when even if you worked really hard for it, you still had the opportunity for that hard work to pay off, and that is privilege. And things like SNAP benefits are mechanisms by which society recognizes that is unfair about society, so we give everybody a baseline of privilege. You can eat. That way, they're more likely to be able to work hard. They're more likely to be able to learn in school and all those important things that for some fucking reason all these people hate. I think it also boils down to it also boils down to something about a collectivistic versus individualistic mindset towards things. I think Americans really struggle with collectivistic thinking, even though it's really valuable to consider society as a whole instead of just yourself or your local sphere of influence. I haven't figured out the bleeping. Apparently people have. Apparently there's a way to turn it off. So we're going to have 2 shows where I'm bleeped on TikTok. But for now, I haven't figured it out. But thank you again, Katie, for the super chat. There's ways to support in all the various different places in the link tree in the bio, but also directly through both the live streams. You can do GIFs and super chats and super fans, all that stuff. All these weirdo beeping their language now. I'm not the one doing the bleeping. TikTok just turned it on for everybody yesterday. I haven't figured out how to turn it off yet. Chat likes it though. I don't know. Because maybe I leave it on because there are 2 streams. There's a horizontal stream and a vertical stream between YouTube and TikTok. There's also a bleeped stream and an unbleeped stream. But I think YouTube doesn't let you put the stream in the background by default, right? Is that just a YouTube Premium feature? I don't know off the top of my head because I don't have because I do have YouTube Premium, so I don't know what it's like without it. But I think TikTok offers that for free. It does feel like a talk show, to be not gonna lie. It is a talk show. Will it bleep asinine? Let me know. I wish it played the bleep in my headphones, at least maybe low volume, just so I can tell when it is bleeping, but I can't. It also, that would be difficult because I'm sure it has to process what I said and then bleep it after the fact. So it's it'd be delayed. How you doing, epiclobsterman? How old are you?
How you doing?
I didn't see what you were. Oh, sorry. Say it again. Sorry, I spoke over you. Just say your age again. Hello?
32.
32. I think we might be dealing with a delay. I'm just going to say the word echo. Just say it back to me as fast as you can. Echo?
Go.
No, that's not so bad. I think maybe I just had a mental glitch and I spoke over you. Are you a Trump supporter?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I didn't see what was being discussed in the chat. I don't know why the mod added you. What would you like to discuss?
I don't know. I was just getting requests to come up here, and then I got muted.
Okay. Well, yeah, we do a thing here where if I don't have a caller, we just mute the people in the chat who are oppositional to encourage them to come up and join the show. So why don't you?
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. It's just for the day. It just keeps the show going. I don't ban opposition in the chat. Anyway, why do you support Trump?
There's quite a few reasons. My favorite thing he did was he boosted the tax returns, so I was able to buy my first house.
For whom did he boost tax returns?
What'd you say?
For what groups did he boost the tax returns?
Well, it was, I guess I'm like middle class, and then he boosted the child tax credits, which I have 4 kids, so I was able to get quite a bit off of that.
Okay. So just, I'm going to ask again a side question here, and then maybe we can get to exactly how all of this affected you. When you vote for elected officials, do you consider what the average effect on Americans are going to be, or just what is the effect on your life and your family is going to be?
I mean, when I voted for him, I didn't think he was going to boost my tax returns. I wasn't voting on that. I was voting on his immigration. I loved what he did in 2016. I think he was great. Voted for him then. Yeah.
Well, no, I guess my concern.
Great. I mean,
I just want to stay on one.
Right now,
I just want to stay on one thing, which is this tax thing. Which, like, I can just assume that perhaps you make enough money that you did. You were talking about the big beautiful bill, right? The changes to the tax policy in the big beautiful bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the vast majority of Americans were affected negatively by the big beautiful bill. Do you understand that, or do we need to cover that?
Well, how are they affected negatively? Are these people without children? These people that didn't have an income hardly? Because you have to hit a certain income level.
Yeah. So for example, if you were excited about the child tax credit, that does disproportionately benefit people who have more children, which is good, which is why such programs exist, because we do want to help people out who have more children, because it supports the public welfare. You recognize that's a welfare policy, right? The idea of giving people a child tax credit.
Yeah, I have no problem with welfare. I mean, I grew up on food stamps. I grew up on all that stuff.
Cool, you get it. Okay, that's great. I'm fine with that. A lot of people who are into Trump don't like welfare programs, so I just wanted to make sure that you understood your benefit.
No. I mean, if you actually need it, you deserve it.
Oh, I have a guest violation? A guest in my life has violated our hate speech. Ooh, sir, I was...
What?
Yeah, I disagree with TikTok hardcore on this one.
I didn't say anything, man.
It's just a warning.
All right, well,
TikTok has been changing.
Here.
No, you're good. I think you're good. TikTok has been changing some rules over the last couple days. I've never seen that window that just popped up on the screen before. It literally is like a new one that just said warning. It didn't ask me to remove you, so I'm just gonna power through if you don't mind staying up, because this sounds like it might be a more productive conversation than I usually have on this show. You're already being more reasonable than most of my callers. I'd love to keep talking.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle on everything. I mean, there's some things I like, some things I don't like, so.
Okay. Well, specifically about this big beautiful bill thing is because we have to look at individual bills as monolithic. One thing, just to point out as an aside that I don't like either side doing, is saying, hey, this politician didn't vote for this bill, and this bill addressed some big problem. I don't know, CSAM or something horrible, right? You know, naughty pictures of kids, right? And you might think, oh my God, you voted against a bill that's gonna like try to protect, you know, children from this bad thing. When the real answer is, yeah, there was some stuff in the bill about that, but there was about 80% of the bill was really bad stuff. You know, this is a bill that tried to sneak a bunch of crap in with something good, so I shouldn't vote for that bill. And it's not fair to say Oscar didn't vote for the bill that fixed this problem, because it's just, you know, we have to look at the whole thing. So that's my problem with the big
Right.
beautiful bill, is that you can find individual things in it that are good. You can find child tax credits that are good. You can find no taxes on tips, which is something I support. You can find these. The analogy I like to use is that these are sprinkles on a dog turd, because I consider the bill as a whole to be something of a dog
really
turd.
bloated.
I think that was on purpose. I think that they put so many things in it that a great many people wanted it to pass because there was something in it that was beneficial to them, even if maybe they weren't able to consider that the whole bill as the bill as a whole might be bad for them, and certainly not the fact that the bill as a whole is on average for everybody bad. The average working American, the average just citizen, the average constituent. If you are such a person that you benefit from it, because wealthier people do benefit from the big beautiful bill, it was through tax policy very much just a distribution of wealth from the poor to the wealthy. I'm just going to mute you because you're being kind of noisy while I'm talking, but I'll click unmute as soon as I'm done talking. My question for you, this is what I really want you to understand. You said you have 4 kids. How confident are you that your 4 children are going to live lives such that they continue to benefit from these sorts of policies? Like, are you not at all worried about the fact that your children, you said yourself that you grew up on food stamps. Like, are you not at all worried about the longitudinal circumstances of your family that might make it so that their lives are harder because of this bill? I've invited you to unmute.
Crap, I lost your audio. I don't hear you.
Oh, you didn't hear what I said? Everybody else can hear me, right? We might be having
maybe that.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go. It's something with my headset.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Sorry.
No worries. The question again, just quickly, is if the big beautiful bill is on average bad for the average American, are you not worried about those sorts of policies being in place as your 4 children grow up and live their lives? Because they might become people who are hurt by these policies.
I mean, I wouldn't say so because, I mean, I'm trying my best to set them up for success. And then, I mean, to be 100% honest with you, are these policies even going to be in place come the time when they grow up? I mean, things change so much so quickly.
Well, so there's 2 things you said there, which is that you're trying your best. You know, you don't want to. You want to provide for your kids in such a way that you don't want them to end up in a situation where they're the type of person who's not going to benefit from these policies. I will say, though, you could just get hit by a bus tomorrow. Like, you don't have perfect control over that. Life isn't fair, and we have social programs to fix that. We were talking about that before you called in, and you said yourself you're okay with welfare programs. So I think that the idea that you want to promote a life for your children where they don't need that sort of help, that's obviously great. That's obviously what you should be doing as a father.
Yeah, I have I like think about this. I have really good life insurance. Like, I would be covered. They would be covered. Like,
for now. How long do you
get it through my employer?
I mean, do you like, if you died tomorrow and your life insurance paid out like a big 7-figure, because you have 4 kids, you're a working man, you might have like a 7-figure life insurance policy. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was in. Did I get the number of digits right? Is it 7 digits?
Yeah, it's close.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so that makes sense to me, but that doesn't go very far. And because of policies like the big beautiful bill, it's going to go less far than it otherwise would. I don't know how old your kids are. Are they still in school? These are K-12 kids?
Yeah, I have yep, they're all at school still. The oldest I have is a freshman.
Right. So $1 million, let's call it, which was the lowest 7-figure number, doesn't pay for all 4 of them to go through school.
Yeah, hopefully I stay alive.
Well, hope is, I call it cope personally, because I think that if you're going to make practical decisions about ensuring the prosperity of your family, like, you need to consider negative possibilities. And it could be anything, you know, it could be, you get like literally struck by lightning, act of God type thing. You could get cancer. Yeah. The chat is pointing out, even worse, what if you don't die? What if you get struck by lightning and you get brain damage and now you're bedridden? You don't get your life insurance policy paid out because you're not dead, but now you're a drain on your family. And
like, really good disability too, but I mean, that still wouldn't.
Well, that wouldn't cut it, would it? For the life you want for your kids?
Yeah, I work for a school, so.
Right. Schools are unfortunately not able to pay their employees nearly as well as they should. I have a lot of experience in education, so it's one of the reasons I've been as broke as I am my entire life, is I've been so dedicated to fucking education of all things, because it just isn't that well paying a job. I mean, we could go down that rabbit hole. But I guess I'm getting your general attitude about your concerns about the life of your children. Why the fuck are you supporting Trump? Because, yeah, like what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I really think he's a great president. I mean, I totally understand all your side of everything. I understand your concerns, but I mean, I would vote. I would honestly vote for him again. I really would. I wish he could run again. I do.
The other thing you brought up about the Big Beautiful Bill is that they're not necessarily policies that are going to be in place for very long. And you're actually very correct about that, and it's particularly true of the good things in the Big Beautiful Bill. One I know about off the top of my head is that no tax on tips, which, helps poor people. It's generally poorer people who are working for jobs where tips are part of the income. And it's a good policy. I agree with it. I think it just uplifts the poor. May as well not have taxes on tips. People don't have to count the cash in their pocket at the end of the day to worry about getting audited or something. They can just have their money. I'm for that. I think it's very clear that it was an attempt to keep Republicans in control, to put that in the Big Beautiful Bill and then have it expire after 2 years to make people want to keep the Republicans in power, so maybe they'll keep it going. They're kind of carrot and sticking the no taxes on tips thing, whereas Kamala Harris just wanted to just codify it as law so it wouldn't change. So she didn't want to put an expiration date on it. She wanted a policy like that would be more lasting. And in general, I'm using that as an example for the fact that the Democrats want to create lasting policies that do ensure the long-term prosperity of your children, regardless of what happens to you, even if it is some horrible worst-case scenario outcome where you become a major drain on your family and can't provide for them. So is there something, do you disagree with me about the fact that Trump is worse for the prosperity of your family than a Democratic candidate would be? Or are there other things that Trump is doing that make up for the fact that he is worse for the prosperity of your family?
Well, I think that's where me and you differ. I think he's better for my family. That's just where me and you differ, and that's why there's Democrats and Republicans, I mean,
I guess then I just want to understand why you think that in light of everything we've just discussed.
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I can't really give them you off the top of my head.
That's concerning to me.
2016 was a lot better. I will say that. 2016
I don't want to breeze past it. You just said that there's lots of reasons that he's better for your family and that you can't think of any. And that to me sounds like cognitive dissonance. I don't want to accuse you of not caring about your family. You do genuinely sound to me like somebody who does care about his family. But I want you to take seriously the fact that you need to have good reason to suggest that something's going to be good for your family. That's a weighty decision. And I don't know. If I was I don't have kids, but if I was talking about my kids and somebody asked me why I thought something was going to be good for my kids, I think I'd be frankly pretty embarrassed if I didn't have good reason for the thing I was asserting. You're teacupped, by the way. I don't know if you're aware. You're muted when you're not in the app. So you have to come back into TikTok and click on mute. I don't know where he went. Everybody go to the link tree in my bio and send me money because I quit my job to run this show full time. Go follow me on the other platforms, all that stuff. epiclobsterman, are you still there? I don't know if you can hear me, but we can't hear you. I don't know if you're talking. You are muted. Oh, you're back. There you go. You're still muted. I think you need to click. No, you're not muted. You there? The chat is accusing you of looking up talking points that you said, how is Trump,
Yeah, I'm losing.
Is it service? It doesn't sound like service.
Seeing him in there, I just don't comment on it. I'm not worried about what Cat has to say.
Well, I was mostly just filling some dead air while you were gone. But the question again is, why do you think that Trump is good for he left. Do we accuse him of running? He seemed like a nice guy. I don't want to be mean to him. I want to talk to him more. I think that to me felt like the sort of conversation where some mind changing can happen. But there's this thing that happens when you change somebody's mind where it's actually pretty rare for them to go, wow, you've changed my mind. I think what I said landed with, here's my impression. I'd love for him to call me back, but I'm just speculating. I'm not asserting this with a lot of confidence, especially because it might have been a connection issue. I think the way I explained that to him landed with him and he got scared and ran away. I'd love for him to call back in. That's just a guess. We're going to talk to Zach, Z-A-C. How old are you, Zach?
40.
40. You a Trump supporter?
I am indeed.
Why?
because he's the first populist candidate to successfully attempt to dismantle the system of corruption that has been, sort of a ever-present force in my life.
I think that Donald Trump is the most corrupt U.S. president in living memory.
Well, that is certainly the narrative that the system that is being dismantled would like you to believe.
That's the impression I've gotten from watching him say and do things as president.
Well, again, say and do things is just something you've watched, and by watched,
you accuse me of you accused me of taking in a narrative, and I said that I specifically drew that conclusion myself from looking at things Trump himself does. I follow his actions very closely.
You're on the press pool?
I didn't say I was on the press pool. No.
So then, when you say watch, what do you actually mean?
Are you suggesting that because I watched videos of Donald Trump talking instead of being in the room with him, that I'm unqualified to discuss the things that he does?
I'm saying that the possibility of you being lied to goes up when you have no actual first-person sort of interaction.
That is true, which is why I work as hard as I can to get first-hand accounts of what happened, which I consider video of the man talking to be. A lot of the time when the news says Trump said this, Trump said that, I have to sit there and spend like 10, 15 minutes digging and like scrolling to an hour and 45 minutes into some rally speech or something to actually find exactly what it is he said. Because you're right, people just, they take a 4-word quotation where he said this or that, and I'm like, right, okay, I need context. I need to know what he was asked. I need to know exactly how this went, because I recognize that people can be soundbited in ways that make them look bad. I sit and talk for 2 hours in front of people every day. If people wanted to scour my content and put together a smash cut of me looking terrible, they absolutely could. So I work really hard not to do that. And it's because I work really hard not to do that, because I really dig every time I hear one of these things to think, what actually happened? What does the lawsuit say? What does the bill say? What was said on the House floor? What precisely did the interview ask him that caused him to say that? I seek the answers to those questions. And when I find the answers to those questions, which I don't always do, sometimes it's just too buried, it's hard to find the moment the news is talking about. But when I do find the answers, I find it to be obvious that Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in living memory.
Got it. So we'll see if that holds up. Do you remember Donald Trump being accused during this most recent election of wanting to put Liz Cheney in front of a firing squad?
Yeah, I do remember that particular headline, but I don't think that relates all that much to his corruption.
Well, no, but do you know what actually happened, or?
I'm not educated on that.
Since you go and check, 1 second, that's a pretty big deal that someone would want to put their political opponents in front of a firing squad.
Trump does something that
sounds pretty corrupt to me.
Trump does something that's that big a deal once or twice a week, so it is hard for me to be an encyclopedia on every single one of them. And I'm not impressed if you've found an example from over a year ago that I'm not hyper educated on, especially when I'm much more concerned with his actual policy positions and the things that he does with his executive authority as president than all the nonsense he spouts, because he frequently spouts nonsense of that sort where he calls for the death of his political opponents. So that's bundled into a large category of things that he often does that I take issue with. But no, you got me. I don't remember that particular headline from over 18 months ago.
All right. So the actual quote was that he said, I'd like to see Liz Cheney stand, 4 toes down as the firing squads emerge her, but she's more than happy to send boys, sit in a comfy office in Washington and send boys to die in wars across the world. Which is actually not only not him saying that she should stand in front of a firing squad, but it's him being like a 1970s hippie. And I'm saying that you don't actually know how often things are just completely and totally skewed against him in the public narrative. Because you don't know this. This is a pretty simple one. And I could show you how every single thing is like that. But more broadly, because you're an intelligent guy, I've heard you speak, this is why I've been wanting to get up. If, let's say, hypothetically, and let's take the concept of Donald Trump out of the way. Imagine somebody.
I'm sorry, I'm at this point. I'm just as host. I'm going to have to bring us back to the claim that Trump is corrupt, because I don't think that him calling for the deaths of his political opponents, which is a problem, I don't think it.
But he didn't. That's the whole point.
Great, not relevant. Anyway, cool, awesome. I'm just going to concede it without evidence because I don't care. We're talking about if he's corrupt, not whether or not he calls for the death of his political opponents, which I don't think is an example of corruption. I think it's an example of authoritarianism. I think it's unpatriotic. I think it's horrible. I think it should probably be illegal for the president to do that sort of thing. I don't think it's an example of his corruption. I'd like to talk about his corruption.
Okay, so what is primarily the corruption that you're speaking of?
I think that
I really would like to be able to finish it. I do feel like I should be able to finish my sentence because it was very much about the corruption.
Please demonstrate to me that your concern about what he said about Liz Cheney has to do with his corruption. Or is it a good example of his corruption?
I'm off the Liz Cheney thing. You conceded on that, so I'm off the Liz Cheney thing. If hypothetically, and I'm sure you've seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington because you sound educated, if somebody showed up in Washington who was independently wealthy, whose claim was that America was getting skewered by a system of corruption that is both parties and has been for the last 50 years, and they made a concerted effort to try to dismantle that system in as many ways as they were able to do so, what would happen to that person?
I think that's too vague an explanation to decide what their outcome would be.
Really? Yeah, I mean, I'm just, when I said that could be a like iconoclast, liberal, Bernie-esque type person, but with money and with power.
Yeah, and I think the important thing that you're leaving out here is whether or not the person uses their position of power to increase that wealth. I don't think it matters as much that the wealth was there in the first place. The reason I think that Donald Trump is corrupt is because he's created an immense amount of wealth for his friends, his family, and himself. His own net worth has gone up. He's not even hiding it by like...
No, but first off, his net worth going up is very simple. When you're worth billions of dollars, and that billions is based on things like your ability to command licensing fees, Are you suggesting that Donald Trump's increase in net worth during his time as president in his second term is the result of wise investment strategies that any billionaire with that type of wealth would have, not to do with insider trading, not to do with the crypto schemes that his family is running, not to do with the influence he has over his constituents, not to do with the fact that he's selling stolen Venezuelan oil on a global market where he's inflated the prices by going to war with Iran and offshored the money in Qatar? You don't think it has anything to do with all that corruption? You think he's just that good at being a billionaire that he's increased his net worth by more than $1 billion in less than a year? Well, it's funny that you say that good at being a billionaire, because it sort of like glosses over what it actually takes to have become a billionaire. Like if you look at other billionaires, you can say 1 second, but I'm going to interrupt it. I'm going to interrupt and say that I need you to demonstrate to me that somebody with Donald Trump's approximate net worth from about 2 years ago fared that well in the market, because otherwise it suggests to me that Donald Trump is abusing his position of power to increase his net worth if he's outperforming the other billionaires, which he is. How much has Elon Musk's net worth gone up in the last 2 years?
I don't know off the top of my head. A lot.
How much has Jeff Bezos's wealth gone up in the last 2 years?
Yeah, they are people who are worth hundreds of billions of dollars and control some of the most powerful countries on the earth, and they are exploding in their power. That is, those are some of the only billionaires that have that sort of growth rate. But Donald Trump is not among their class. He's not anywhere near a trillionaire. He's worth something less than $10 billion, right? So show me somebody worth less than $10 billion who doesn't control one of the most powerful countries on the planet, because Trump simply doesn't. He doesn't have any business that has the reach or control as Elon Musk's empire or Jeff Bezos's empire. Show me a billionaire like that has had this level of wealth increase in the time that Trump has, and then we can start talking about maybe how Trump accomplished it. Because even without considering the fact that other billionaires in his class didn't perform that well over this period, they did perform well because the billionaires are doing well right now, but they didn't double or triple the net worth. That's insane. Even without that component of it, we can look directly at the things that he is doing to increase that net worth, and they're obviously corrupt things.
And so you have evidence of direct payments to him, is what you have?
Yeah,
you have evidence of direct. I'm asking because, again, we're going back to this question of, could it be the narrative, or is it? Do you have some sort of unavailable to me? Do you know the average number? Do you know the average number of trades that were made on behalf of Donald Trump during his current term as president? What it's been? Do you think Donald Trump sits on Robinhood on the toilet?
The exact words I said were trades made on behalf of Donald Trump. I predicted that talking point because I've had this conversation about 60 times. So I don't think he's sitting on Robinhood. Yeah, the exact talking point that you're saying is a quote from J.D. Vance, where he said, "Do you think Donald Trump is sitting around on Robinhood making trades?" And he said that he has well-informed advisors who make these decisions for him, which as president is a demonstration of his corruption. It's once every 7 minutes, by the way, everybody. I have a question. For a year, for 2025, Trump made a trade every 7 minutes, or a trade was made on his behalf.
Donald Trump has made himself the most hated man in America ever in the history of certainly my life.
Pivot.
And you think that in order to enrich himself as a politician, he had to literally try to fuck everything up.
Pivot.
That's not a pivot. I'm just asking. I'm asking whether you think, if the goal is make yourself money in politics,
What you're doing is gish galloping, which is a strategy where you move on to. Excuse me. What you're doing is
you have to become the most hated person on earth.
What you're doing in this debate is called gish galloping. I'm just going to educate my audience. I'm sure that you know what it is, but I'm going to tell everybody else. Which is a strategy where you don't spend enough time on each of the claims that you're making to actually flesh out the argument. Make sure you understand my side. Make sure I understand your side. Look at the evidence. Figure it out. You just move on to something else. You were so frightened by the fact that I immediately knew exactly where your talking point came from because I saw JD Vance do that, which was an obvious admission of insider trading. By the way, it was actually a bad.
Listen, I'm not actually.
And then you moved on to all this. You're interrupting me now while I'm explaining what you're doing, which is that you've moved on to these other things.
No, you're lying about what I'm doing.
I knew your quote better than you did. Like, what am I lying about?
I'm sorry that me having dropped out of Harvard and him going to Yale, that we end up coming to similar conclusions. But I actually didn't see that clip, so I wasn't aware of that moment. It makes sense.
Okay, then it made it through the grapevine. You heard some other talking head regurgitate the line about Robin Hood. That's the reason I knew it came from him.
Why is it just possible that maybe I'm literally?
I'm saying that what you need to do is stay on. You need to stay on one topic long enough to demonstrate which of us is right instead of moving on to something else, which is what I'm accusing you of doing. You're gish galloping.
How did you come to political commentary?
I saw other people doing it and thought, you know what? I think I'd be pretty fucking good at that, so I started doing it.
Got it. Well, again, as I said, clearly intelligent. You're sort of uninformed.
So do we want to go back to this thing that you're running away from, which is this conversation about Donald Trump's stock trading in his first term? Because that was the topic.
Listen, let me just tell you, as long as the president does the right thing, I don't care whether they leave office a trillionaire. As long as it doesn't steal from the American government, as long as they're not stealing from the American government.
I believe that he is stealing from the American government.
Well, you're incorrect, because again, there's literally there's no reason to.
We could discuss that. We could discuss that if you were willing to finish one topic. Once again, I don't feel like we've concluded. I don't think we've concluded our conversation on Donald Trump's stock trading.
How wealthy did Obama leave office?
I don't think that we've concluded our conversation about Donald Trump's stock trading.
So how would you like to finish that conversation? I don't care.
I know you don't care that the president is corrupt, and that's why you called in to try to gish gallop away from the topic. The reason that I brought up the thing about what JD Vance said is because I started by saying you wanted an example of his corruption, and I said that I asked you in his first term, how, as we know, in 2025, how frequently was a trade made on his behalf? You ignored the part where I said on his behalf because obviously fucking Donald Trump isn't actually on Robinhood on his phone doing it. Duh. You pointed that out even though I saw it coming, and then I said that that's a talking point that came from JD Vance, where JD Vance said that Donald Trump has well-informed advisors who do his stock trading for him, which is a demonstration of his insider trading because he's the fucking sitting US president, and the number of trades made on his behalf in 2025, as we know, is one on average every 7 minutes, which obviously they're not going to be distributed evenly every 7 minutes. But that's an enormous amount of trading. That's an enormous amount of precise trading. We can also look at the stock market and see that there are large trades that are made on behalf of other individuals that coincide just minutes before Trump makes major announcements about global affairs, like how he's going to handle Iran, in a way that's statistically anomalous. It would be almost impossible for it to be a coincidence. There's an enormous amount of evidence of his corruption if we look at his stock trading history and the stock trading history of people who are closely associated with him, which is what we have to do to investigate insider trading. And you're just running away from the topic and asking me about Obama, dude. Like, what's going on?
Well, no, I mean, you said corruption, right? Corruption was the original. Now you want to talk about stock trading as a specific thing?
Insider trading is a type of corruption, and Donald Trump does so many different types of corruption that you are, yes, capable of gish galloping from one to another instead of sticking on one long enough to demonstrate to me and my audience that you are actually right about this. It is very corrupt.
One second, I have a question. Who's the victim in this situation?
Everybody, the American people, everybody who engages with because he's robbing the economy, but he's robbing money out of the stock market by insider trading because he has control over the stock market as president. He's abusing his power. He doesn't have control over the stock market.
Yes, he does. That's ridiculous. What a ridiculous statement.
He has great influence over the stock market.
What a ridiculous statement. It's not
ridiculous. The stock market.
College. Take an economics course.
I was literally about to say I was the economics tutor at my college, and I understand that the numbers in the stock market are the result of market forces, but he has great influence over market forces, and it is absurd for you to suggest that he does not.
He has control over things that affect the market, right?
Yes.
In that when he, does something in Iran, it can affect oil prices, which are part of the market.
Yep.
Okay. can he force anything to happen in the market?
I'm sure one could come up with an example of something that he could directly force, but in
Okay.
general,
And
no.
one second.
That's
So if
hold on, Zach. I'm actually going to
be.
interrupt you for just a second to thank who is it? I'm going to thank Seb for the 20-pound YouTube super chat. He just wanted to point out that Jimmy Carter put his peanut farm in a blind trust to avoid the possibility of conflicts of interest due to Trump's behavior. If the Congress was willing to do its job, there would be a constitutional amendment to force this. Yeah, I think that we do need some changes in like major codified law about how to handle insider trading. Sorry, I just wanted to thank the donor. Thank you so much for the YouTube super chat. I really appreciate it. What were you saying?
You wanted to talk about stock trading.
Yeah, and he has great influence over the market.
As a subsection of corruption.
Yeah, because he's using his influence as president.
Here's how I see corruption, and you can tell me whether this is wrong. Corruption is any malicious thievery above the baseline of what is always there in politics that harms people.
That's a terrible definition for corruption.
I mean, listen, but I understand.
No. Let me tell you my specific problem.
I don't care about what Obama did.
I have a very specific problem with your definition. You just said a thing. Let me respond to it.
I only care about the one guy.
You just said a thing. Can I respond to the thing you just said? This is you gish galloping because I have a problem with your definition and you don't want to give me the time to address it. You want to talk about Obama and shit. The problem is that you said above the baseline in politics because that allows somebody to then say that because there is a corruption problem in politics generally, that there's an acceptable rate of corruption, which is a little sneaky thing in your definition that I don't like. Because in my perfect world, there is not an acceptable rate of corruption for politicians.
But there is, clearly, because you don't want to talk about Obama, who was 70x his...
The reason I don't want to talk about Obama is because he retired 10 years ago. I want to talk about the current president and the amount of corruption that he has.
But 70x is worth more than 2x, right? So that's more corruption.
I don't even know what you're talking about with 70x. I missed whatever you said there.
Once again, his net worth was 1 million.
Do you recognize the problem I have with your definition? Stop gish galloping.
But how does someone go from 1 to 70
you brought that up after your definition. I'm responding to your definition. I'm not allowing you to move on to the next thing because
I'm saying 70x is above the baseline.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about your definition of that the baseline is important to the definition of what corruption is, which
also becomes exponentially harder to make money.
You're just ignoring what I'm saying. You're just not listening to the words I'm saying.
It's a lot easier.
You're just steamrolling with this thing that came up, but I haven't agreed to your definition. How can we proceed in the conversation?
Okay, so let's go back. So you don't. Okay, 1 second. So it's fair. Listen, you don't believe that any corruption is okay. Is that what you're saying? But you haven't actually demonstrated that there has been corruption. You just say it indicates, based on his good stock picks, that there has been corruption.
Yeah, I said it's almost statistically impossible for there to not be corruption because for it to be by coincidence is more unlikely than shuffling a deck of cards the same way twice, which is
cool.
Also
so let's say Donald Trump is for sure betting on the market, right? And since he has some measure of control over some forces,
you're still moving past my issue with your definition. Remind my audience that you're listening and tell my audience what my issue with your definition was.
So. Yeah, you said above the base. I said above the baseline, and so you said we can't have that part of the definition because it indicates that there is some baseline of corruption in politics, which you disagree with.
You're recognizing a baseline of corruption when defining corruption. It's circular is really the fundamental issue if we want to get technical about it.
Well, no, because you said like Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in, I think that's what you said, right?
I said in living memory.
Yeah. Okay. So, and since I certainly can remember Obama,
that's the top.
You said in living memory. You said
not 1 second.
Doesn't that mean that there's a comparison?
You're doing the gish gallop within the topic. We are talking broad. We're talking broadly. The topic of the whole call is that I think Trump is the most corrupt president in living memory.
In living memory.
But you are escaping
Which
this
means
little.
In compared to presidents,
you are escaping this little part of the conversation where I'm stuck on your definition of the word corruption by moving back to the broader topic.
Great. So let's go to your definition. What is your definition of corruption?
Do you recognize, I'm not going to answer that question until you answer this one. Do you recognize that it is circular to define corruption in a way that depends on a baseline level of corruption?
No.
Okay. Then I think we need to talk about that because you are fucking wrong about that, because the word corruption isn't even important to what we're asking. You know, if I wanted to say like what an apple pie is, or like here, if I wanted to say what a pizza pie is, I could say that a pizza pie is having 8 times more pizza than if you have one slice of pizza from a pizza pie, right? That's like above like a baseline level of pizza. Maybe one slice of pizza is a normal serving. If you have 8 times that many, that's a pizza pie. Do you think that's a good definition of what a pizza pie is? That tells somebody what pizza is.
I think that you're misstating your little comparison. I don't know. I love how you guys come up with bad analogies. Like it's your job.
So then let's show my audience that it's a bad analogy.
I'll respond in the pizza metaphor for you.
Okay.
So if you call someone a pizza monster, like Cookie Monster, then you might be able to say that the thing that makes you a pizza monster is that you have to eat more than the average person's amount of pizza. And whether they're the most pizza monster that has ever existed might start by saying they eat more pizza than average to start, right? Like to even consider them a pizza monster instead of just a normal pizza person who eats pizza, we would have to define what the baseline amount of pizza is that people eat, or else you could call everyone who eats pizza a pizza monster, right?
I think the point of the conversation we're at is that I am saying that Trump is a corruption monster. He does a lot of corruption, but we're just trying to define corruption in the first place, which is where it becomes circular.
Define it.
Well, no, I'm still stuck on the fact that you don't understand how the pizza thing is a good analogy, because I can understand a pizza monster. You added a word now because we were just talking about defining pizza.
Well, you said most corrupt.
Again, that's you zooming. You're zooming back out. How can we discuss whether or not he's the most corrupt without discussing what corruption is? Because you can't tell if somebody's a pizza.
What's the definition, sir?
If you don't know what pizza is, you can't tell if somebody's a pizza monster, because you can't tell if what they're eating is pizza. So you can't define pizza by saying a pizza pie is more pizza than just a slice. That's maybe a definition of what pie is. The amount of corruption that Trump is doing compared to the amount of corruption a normal politician does might be a good definition of the word a lot, the phrase a lot, but it still doesn't define corruption.
The word that you used was most. That's a descriptive term.
More corrupt than the other.
If you just said he's corrupt,
you keep zooming out to how
I would be off.
You keep zooming out to how corrupt he is, but we have to first establish what corruption is.
If you just said he's corrupt, then my statement of above baseline wouldn't make it, because you'd be like, no. Corrupt just means the presence of corruption, in which case Donald Trump is corrupt. But you said most corrupt. And so I had to clarify what that meant, which at the very least means above the baseline of corruption that exists in politics and has always existed in a bipartisan way.
And I argue that that's a circular way to define what corruption is. You keep zooming out to whether he's more or not less corrupt. The chat even pointed out, I think it was Raven in the chat, who said you're on step 2 before we establish step 1. We can talk about if Trump is the most corrupt president in living memory. That's my bigger claim. But you and I don't agree about what corruption is. So why is that a good use of our...
define it. Please define it so that we can get a better working definition.
Corruption is abusing one's position of power for personal benefit.
Okay. That checks out.
Yeah.
And you know what? Under that definition, I might even say you are correct. Donald Trump is corrupt.
And I would argue that by any reasonable measure, I could offer a measure if we needed one specifically. I would say that Trump is the most...
let's find a measure.
Billions of dollars. Find me a president who has enriched themselves more than Trump has, especially if we consider the attempts to enrich himself. His lawsuit for $10 billion with the IRS, the $1.776 billion slush fund, which it seems he's failing on. It was pretty unpopular, so he's backing out. He doesn't succeed at everything he does. But I think the fact that he tried to get the number 1776, which demonstrates he liked the way it looked on paper, instead of like trying to come up with a legally reasonable amount for the damages that he was allegedly settling for, like that's a demonstration that it's corrupt nonsense and not actually a legally sensible amount. So there's a bunch of individual examples. I talked about the Venezuelan oil. I talked about the insider trading. The list goes on. There's a bunch of things that he does, and whether we're talking about successful attempts or just attempts that weren't successful, the amount of corruption as measured in taxpayer dollars, billions of US dollars, fucking buckaroos, smackos, it's bigger than it has been with any other president in living memory. Provide me a counterexample. Now you can talk about Obama.
Well, no, let's talk about Venezuela, because I found that interesting. So you think that he has personal access / control / ownership over the Venezuela money?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, again, you're like weirdly misinformed for somebody who wants to talk politics.
just gonna let the dead hair hang on that one. How's everybody else doing? Prove it, dude. You can make your argument. Like, come on.
So let's talk about, first off, let me just make a real clear statement. So Venezuela, Iran, Cuba, Greenland, Panama, these are all a very, very coherent strategy to isolate and degrade China's influence in the world. And they're working. And that's why we've got a good deal coming up with China, is because we've been able to create a set of forces around the globe that are going to hasten this inevitable collapse that China is facing.
If we're going to limit the conversation to Venezuela, I will recognize that what Trump has done in Venezuela has improved our standing against China. If when we think about the potential of a large global conflict like World War III that everybody worries about, there's some things about China that are concerning. They're outpacing us on shipbuilding. They have good access to petroleum products because they're in better talks with people in the Middle East right now.
They don't now.
Well, yeah. So what you're saying about our influence on China is correct, but I don't think that makes it make sense what Trump is doing with the Venezuelan oil. Because if he wanted to protect us from China, he would use the now captured Venezuelan oil. He essentially robbed Venezuela of their oil industry using the U.S. military as a gun, which I would argue is...
One second. Do you know who built Venezuela's oil industry before they nationalized it?
Did it belong to them or not?
Yes, when you build something and own something and then it gets nationalized by a corrupt government, that is theft. And so it's our oil.
We own the oil that's still in the ground that there doesn't exist yet infrastructure to mine, because that's what Trump says to them. Again,
if I build a well on my property, right, and I get water from the aquifer, which is my right to get, and then you come along as a government agency and say, we are taking your land, and then they take not only my land, but also my well that I built.
Your point, which I could argue about, I just don't want to get sidetracked on it. I can concede for the sake of argument, because even if you're right, because I was just saying, even if we want the oil for our fight against China, potentially in World War III, or because it technically belonged to us in some way, which I would disagree with. I don't think that that's sensible, especially with how long it's been and the fact that there were different people involved when those decisions were made. By that argument, we're supposed to give the land back to the Native Americans, right? I don't think we want to go down that fucking rabbit hole together.
No, because the Native Americans aren't the one knocking on Venezuela's door.
But even if I conceded it all to prevent getting stuck down those rabbit holes with you, even if I conceded it all, that still doesn't explain why Trump is selling the oil on the global market and offshoring the money, because that's not helping our fight against China.
He's keeping it out of the hands of Congress.
Yeah,
which is again another thing that's
unconstitutional, because the Constitution says that it is Congress who's supposed to handle American money. So
again, you're worried about Trump's usage of the money because he's quote unquote corrupt, but you're like, please make sure you give it back to the Congress.
No, you're gish galloping. You're not addressing the exact things I'm saying. I will take a moment to thank Sack for the $5 YouTube super chat. He says Trump phone rug pull plus his 2003 style emails begging for money from 70-year-olds. Yeah, I mean here, I'll gish gallop. Let's talk about the fact that he took $100 from a bunch of his gullible supporters for a Trump phone that he then didn't deliver on. And a week before they released the email saying that they weren't going to deliver the phones at all, they updated the terms of service to say that you might not get the phone at all. Literally just running a fucking sales scam against his own dumb fuck constituents. Like, that's fucking fraud. Like, that's an example. Talk about the guy that's selling $60 Trump Bibles, like literally taking money out of the pocket of his gullible religious supporters when he is a president who doesn't espouse the values of Christianity. I can just list fucking corrupt scams at you.
I have a question. Was a pet rock corruption? Was selling pet rocks corruption?
I think I'm just going to gish gallop and move on to something else. Or do you want me to actually address your claim? Right. I'm demonstrating to you how useless it is to talk to you, because we can't actually pin any of this shit down.
Well, yeah, because you keep saying stupid things and I keep rebutting you like really clearly and
who sold the pet rocks?
I don't know, some guy in the 70s who made millions of dollars off selling pet rocks.
Was he the president? Is that what you're telling me?
No, but the point is that selling things to people who voluntarily trade their money for the thing is never corruption.
I think that the president using his platform to hawk merchandise is an example of corruption.
His platform is the Donald Trump platform. It's been going on for 50 years almost. His platform is the Oval Office.
He's the president of the United States.
His platform is fucking X, and like his platform is the way that he has talked to supporters in a way that no other president has. It's the way that he has commanded attention in the way no other president has.
The Trump Bible features a seal that shows that he's the president of the United States.
Yeah, because he is the president of the United States.
Yeah. So right here, the seal is the president. It says president of the United States.
He is the president. He got to be the president. He literally won a very difficult election.
Then why doesn't he have his own branding on the front of it? Why is he using the president's branding to sell Bibles?
It says Trump. It says Trump above it.
That's his
brand. It's literally the brand that people pay money to use.
Yeah. I'm saying, why is he, instead of leveraging his own name, why is he using the presidential seal?
He is the president. Everything he does gets the presidential seal on it right now because he is the president, and his brand is Trump.
I think you're just not. That's a non-answer to my concern about the fact that he's using the presidential seal.
I would love to go back to the very beginning, the thing that you just didn't answer me. If a man,
you always love to go somewhere else, regardless of what we're talking about. So that's not very surprising.
Like 3 times in a row.
Just
went on to different random little things.
It's frustrating, isn't it? Isn't it really annoying when the person you're talking to does that?
I'm not doing that. Yes, you are, man. I'm more that find a thing and tell me where we're going to sit. We can sit for hours. I have plenty of patience.
Okay. I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't really care. Pick a thing. We've talked about a lot in this call.
All right. So let's talk about Iran. So Iran is the boogeyman that our military-industrial complex has been using to sell weapons to Jordan and Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Israel and a whole bunch of other people for decades now. It is why we have allowed one of the most barbaric, problematic regimes on the planet that causes, almost all of the global instability when you take it down to the core. We've allowed that to happen. We've allowed that to exist.
They have significant control. I was with you on a lot of that description of Iran until you came to the point that they're like the most pivotal, important thing in the world. I don't agree with that.
So I'm saying global instability. I mean, they're an ally of Russia, right? Mm-hmm. So in some way they're connected to that. I think
Russia's a bigger problem for global instability than Iran.
Listen, you can make that statement, but I don't actually think that plays out because you've got Russia dealing with Ukraine, and they're pretty much just dealing
They're waging
with
a ground invasion war in Europe, and they have been for years. What the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, that's also not true. We can go back to that. But
are you denying that the Ukraine war is happening?
No, I'm denying that Russia started the Ukraine war.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not surprised that you have some pretty seriously nonsensical positions about geopolitics, but that the fact that you just said that really discredits your ability to assess whether or not Iran is actually that big a major player if you don't count the Ukraine war as a ground invasion of a sovereign country, especially in consideration of what. Wait, no. I'm going to address that point because the Budapest Memorandum in the 90s, I think it was 1994, is when Ukraine was granted their sovereignty by Russia in exchange for their nuclear program. So they were literally given their sovereignty in a deal that Russia went against when they invaded Crimea in 2014, I believe it was, and then further violated when the invasion began of mainland Ukraine in 2022. So what? What are you talking about?
Well,
Russia agreed that Ukraine was sovereign. That's the important thing. In
94, after the USSR had deconstructed, there was a pledge by NATO to stay within its borders. If you think about NATO as one half of a conflict, right? A war between, let's say, the West and Russia, which becomes NATO versus Russia. One side is a fighter in that war as much as the other guy. So if I'm Russia, who has been told by NATO, we're not coming closer to your border, which is why we need Ukraine to be, independent, and then spend the next 2 decades getting closer to your border. I think as someone like Russia, that might indicate to you that the West, right? The military-industrial complex maybe actually doesn't have world peace as their primary goal.
I'm not following. I think the thing that's making this difficult for me to.
By the way,
I think the thing that's making this difficult for me to understand. I think the thing that's making. Excuse me. I'd like to respond to your position on Ukraine. I think the thing that's making it difficult for me to understand your position on Ukraine is that you used decades-old agreements about Venezuelan oil infrastructure to defend the invasion of Ukraine, but now you're ignoring decades-old agreements between countries to defend Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So, which is it?
How was I using Venezuela to talk about Ukraine? What?
Sorry, I think I may have misspoke there. I jumbled it. I'll say it again. You used decades-old agreements when you were defending what Trump did in Venezuela, And now you are disregarding decades-old agreements when you're talking about what Putin is doing in Ukraine.
I literally just brought up a decades-old agreement, which was NATO's agreement not to move eastward.
I don't think that's relevant to the agreement that Russia and Ukraine had in order for Ukraine to denuclearize in exchange for their sovereignty. That's the agreement I'm talking about.
Wait, why would it matter at all that Ukraine...
The chat's also just not saying that what you're saying about NATO isn't even true, because I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't know if you're misrepresenting something or what.
George Baker, our Secretary of State at the time, said not
Please answer my
inch.
concern about these decades-old agreements, because you disregard decades-old agreements when it comes to Ukraine, but you value decades-old agreements when it comes to Venezuela, as you demonstrated earlier in the call. Please square that hypocrisy. That's the topic. I'm not going to move on from it.
I'm literally only talking about decades-old agreements. I'm saying our decades-old agreement not to move towards Russia as NATO is the first.
What does that have to do with Ukraine?
That is the underlying agreement that forces Russia's hand eventually in Ukraine.
What does that have to do with Ukraine? NATO's a third party to this?
Well, NATO's not a third party. They're the representation militarily of the West.
But Ukraine's not in NATO.
Well, that was the whole point. They were going to put Ukraine in NATO. Okay. And by the way, they had put a bunch of countries on the border of Ukraine into NATO despite the agreement not to move towards Russia.
Okay, so here's the question. Why does the concern that Ukraine is going to join a defense alliance, why is that a concern for Russia that makes it make sense for them to violate their agreement that they had with Ukraine, which was also one that was fostered for peace? Denuclearization and sovereignty were the topics.
Okay, so the point of NATO is that if someone in NATO is attacked or in any way in danger, the rest of NATO has to come to their aid, right? And so the military-industrial complex, wanting to, of course, create world peace, kept moving the definition of who could be attacked in order for us to go to war with Russia closer and closer to Russia's borders.
That doesn't answer my concern.
Do you understand how that works?
That doesn't answer my concern. It doesn't get to the point I'm about, which is that it's compatible. You know, you can have Ukraine do both. They can have their agreement to denuclearize and get their sovereignty from Russia, and they can join NATO. Those are both things that, in my view, create a more likelihood for peace as opposed to war.
The agreement for getting them their denuclearization was that they were never going to join NATO.
I don't think that's right.
That's the whole point. Do you understand that, again, NATO is a military organization?
That's not true. No. They got sovereignty, and you're not giving up sovereignty to join NATO. That's not true.
No, I didn't say sovereignty. Why does sovereignty have anything to do? What are you, like, do you not understand what NATO is?
Where is this agreement that Ukraine would never join NATO to get their sovereignty from Russia?
Dude, just look up George Baker, not 1 inch. That was our agreement with Gorbachev. I'm sorry that you were just not
Elusive Viper on YouTube Super Chat actually saved me from this one particular thing I'm not educated about, because they already a few moments ago sent a YouTube Super Chat for $20. Thank you. That says Gorbachev himself has said that the 1 inch eastward quote was only in reference to East Germany. So Gorbachev, I'm going to trust the chat on that one. Somebody please tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe Gorbachev himself has clarified that he was talking about only in East Germany. So that's my answer. I'm not going to spend airtime looking it up. I wonder why.
If you're Russia.
Wait, and then I just want to take a second to also thank Seb for the £2 YouTube super chat where they said, I wonder why Romanians would want to join NATO. Thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Sorry. What's your answer again about the Gorbachev thing?
I just want you to just imagine that you can just look at these issues as like a reasonable, independent human being. On one side, you have the West.
You're misapplying a quote. You're misapplying a quote from Gorbachev about the relationships.
I'm not. Yes, I'm glad that your friend on the internet says that it's not true, but the guy that you're talking to, who knows a bit more about politics and geopolitics and history than you do, clearly, says that he's fucking wrong.
I mean, you haven't demonstrated that you're right about literally anything you've said in this entire call. So, I just...
So just to be clear, I was born in Washington, D.C. My father worked for Reagan and Bush. I was carried around the Oval Office as a kid. He then ran for Congress. He ran a bunch of presidential campaigns. My entire life has been in politics. I voted for Obama. I voted for Bernie. And now I voted for Trump. I am and now I'm running for mayor. I'm pretty versed on my politics.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to read this up in real time. Seen to the collapse of East Germany or speed of German unification. Yeah, you're talking about Gorbachev's stance on post-World War II divided Germany as your defense for Russia invading Ukraine. I recognize the non sequitur here. Sorry, I don't know.
And what was who had East Germany? Who had West Germany?
I'm not, like, unless you can demonstrate to me that this isn't a Gish Gallop to something else. Like, I need this to be to relate.
Can you answer
to
the question? It's really simple. It's like one of those like simple questions that you can just answer with words.
No, I'm not going to go down the World War II rabbit hole. You need to demonstrate that it relates to Ukraine.
It's not a World War II one. Was
I don't
on one
do this,
side,
dude.
one was on the other side.
I don't do this, dude. Like my fucking grandmother is a fucking refugee from Germany because Latvia was bad in World War II. It doesn't matter. None of it's relevant. Tell me about Ukraine. Tell me
certainly not relevant.
It certainly isn't relevant. We could talk about World War II. I just don't think it is relevant to the agreements that happened at the collapse of the Soviet Union in the 90s.
I'm not talking about World War II. I'm not talking about World War II. I'm talking about East and West Germany. In 1980.
Yeah, but whatever. Cold War era stuff. Yes, okay. So my again, the agreements that happened in the 90s supersede the conflicts that happened prior. There's this agreement for sovereignty for Ukraine, and even if they agreed to not join NATO, which I mean, even if Russia's concerned about Ukraine joining NATO, again, that just doesn't overturn an agreement for their sovereignty. Like
imagine this. Imagine you're Russia and you're like, gosh, I either have to fight NATO on the other side of Ukraine's borders, or I get to fight them on our borders in Ukraine, which I don't know if you've noticed.
I understand why Russia does want Ukraine. I'm just saying they weren't allowed to invade it and kill all those people.
There's no allowed. We were not allowed to move eastward towards Russia with our defense agency organization. Again, as the people in the world who sell bullets.
I'm like losing interest in talking to you at all. It's just impossible. You're not.
I know, because it must be pretty fucking like internally upsetting.
Projection.
To hear that your narratives have been just that for as long as you've held them.
Elijah Kane said, "Have a pint on me later, buddy. Keep up the good fight." Appreciate you, Eliza. Thank you for the $15 on Venmo. Yeah, dude, the chat warned me that you were pro-Israel, and we got a taste of that earlier. And it sounds to me like you don't have any good you value wars of conquest. You want Trump to invade Venezuela to take the oil. I still think that's wrong to do, even if it is just to benefit us in our fight against China. But I don't necessarily think that. There's a bunch of stuff here that to me demonstrates that your perspective on what's allowable for the president to do is bad, and I think that's a bigger topic than particular random nonsense about the Cold War. I got some more YouTube super chats today. Thank you, Katie, for the $2. She says, "Does this caller get his talking points from Tucker?" I can ask him. Tucker Carlson. You watch Tucker Carlson? Canadian Vicky said,
Tucker was really. He was one of the greatest political commentators we had until he got bought by Qatar. Now he's just a big fucking...
Oh, if you're concerned about Qatari influence, it should probably concern you that all that Venezuelan oil money that Trump has is getting offshored to Qatar. But before we get to that, I'm gonna think
it very much does. Which is why we're not doing Iran correctly.
Well, I'm glad that at least concerns you. But thank you, Canadian Vicky, for the $14 YouTube super chat. No way you go from voting Bernie to voting for Trump. You don't just go from having good moral values and caring about society to throwing it all away for Trump. This guy was never...
There's nobody who has enacted more Bernie policies.
I wasn't done reading their message, and they support the show, dude. These people are paying my rent. This guy was never left-leaning. I am inclined to agree with Vicky. I don't think that you're an honest caller. I don't think that you'd tell the truth about your past. I think that you would bring that up as something to give yourself credibility. I mentioned some of my family history because I'm like a descendant of World War II refugees. So like that's not relevant. I brought it up as an example of something that's not relevant. And your history as a voter is also not relevant to the conversation because the conversation is about who is right about the facts of the matter that we're discussing. So we can just sit here and suck each other's dicks about what we think about ourselves, but it's just really not good argumentation. But you've demonstrated in this call you're very bad at good argumentation. So I don't know. I almost just want a new topic or for somebody to pay me to kick you because I'm getting bored of you just gish galloping around in circles about bullshit.
Well, why don't you give me a subject that you think you're good at?
I mean, I can pick any subject. I just think this one is tired. I don't want to offer you a subject that I think I'm good at. One of the things I do on the show is I let people bring me just about any topic.
So how about this? I am running for mayor, and my platform is that we are going to provide food, education, transportation, healthcare, housing, and energy to all people as a right. And we're going to use systems of capitalism to efficiently and effectively deliver those systems.
Oh, had me until the end there. I don't think capitalism is very good for those sorts of things.
Capitalism is the only thing that works. Communism and socialism are commentaries on the abuses of unfettered capitalism, which you have to be aware of if you intend to be a long-lasting and effective capitalist.
Yeah, thankfully I don't agree with any of those labels. I've got a more nuanced in-between stance on all of it. So yeah, I agree that all those groups are bad, including your side of it. I think it's nonsense what you just said about capitalism being a good approach for those sorts of programs that benefit the social welfare.
So we're going to provide housing, right? And the way we're going to provide housing is that we're going to...
there's this company that I pay money to every month that provides me housing, and they have some really awful practices that make my living conditions kind of bad compared to what I think they should be given the amount of wealth that exists in society, and they're doing it via capitalism. So I'm just not interested in hearing that you're going to solve housing with capitalism, because the way that housing is being solved by capitalism is greatly inequitable and very, very bad for a lot of people, and the people for whom the housing market is bad are people who are themselves already disadvantaged. So no, I'm not interested.
Are you familiar with Vienna or Singapore and their housing models?
No.
Okay. They are the two most effective providers of government housing in the world.
Wait, where are you running for mayor of, by the way?
Hudson, New York.
Hudson, New York. Okay.
They are providing the best housing outcomes in the world, and they're doing it via capitalism by essentially saying capitalist forces means there's demand for housing. And so what we're going to do is, instead of allowing developers to build housing and then extract that value outside of the town, we, the town, recognizing that there is demand, are going to become the developer. And not only are we going to become the developer, but we're going to lower the cost of financing, we're going to lower the cost of building, and we're going to be able to, using the same exact forces, build housing significantly cheaper, and thus, A, capture some of that margin that would have gone to a capitalist. We're going to capture that for a sovereign wealth fund that pays off future housing. And we're going to provide just significantly reduced housing costs to people while making housing abundant and high quality.
So that sounds like a pretty socialist approach to housing, that while I'm skeptical that you would come up with a good structure based on what you've said in this call, because based on what you said in the call, nobody should fucking vote for you. You have no idea what you're fucking talking about. But it sounds like principally, philosophically, ethically, sounds to me like you're actually in favor of the sort of policies that I'm into, which is where we use socialism as a tool to control capitalism so it doesn't fuck people over in the way that I just described.
So the way we traditionally do housing is we allow outside developers to build housing at whatever it costs for them to build housing. And then, and by the way, we make it very difficult.
No, Seb gave me 2 more pounds on YouTube Super Chat, but I was going to say it anyway, so I'll just read it from Seb's lips instead of mine. That's literally not capitalism. You understand that, right?
So I will tell you that the way the socialist portion works is that we, the government in Hudson, because we have plenty of actual subsidized housing, we pay
is that your real name?
Private developer. It's Zachary Waldman. Zachary Thomas Waldman. If you want to look me up, I have 50,000 followers on Instagram. I have more. Yay! Bad shit that I did. Yeah, congratulations.
To Zachary Thomas what? Waldman.
Okay. I mean, you're not going to find anything about the mayor's race yet, but you could find there's an article in the New York Times about my project in New York. There's plenty of stuff.
Okay.
That you can find pictures of me with my ex-girlfriends, whatever it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I've had a pretty cool life.
You trying to flex about getting laid? Like, what the fuck, dude?
I don't have to flex about getting laid. I
bring
am
it
flexing
up?
about the incredibly beautiful, intelligent, awesome, high quality women that I tend to get laid by, but I certainly don't have to brag about getting laid.
I mean, do you think that your condescending chuckle masks the fact that that's exactly what you're doing?
I wouldn't say that saying that you can find photos of me with my ex-girlfriends is bragging about getting laid.
I think bringing it up at all in a political conversation absolutely is exactly that. Katie sent me $2 on YouTube Super Chat. Says, time to kick this collar. I don't know. I might start collecting kick donations. I'm having fun with you still. Yeah, Yeah,
Should.
dude. Why do
I
you?
think, again, I've seen you just, doing this.
If I was running for mayor, and I was having a conversation with somebody who disagreed with me politically in any domain, whether it was random assholes TikTok live or behind the lectern somewhere on the television on the street corner, it doesn't really matter. If I was running for mayor and I really wanted people to take me seriously and I really wanted people to value my perspective on things, I would really shy away from talking about my personal accolades. I don't think it's important that like all I have to do if I want to get laid is go to a karaoke bar and sing Johnny Cash, because I do such a mean Johnny Cash that works like 93% of the fucking time or something like that. If I'm horny, that's what I do, because I'm good at singing. But what does it matter, right? Like, who fucking cares?
It's funny. I also tend to. That's fun. Jackson is one of my preferred karaoke songs. If you truly want to get laid, you find a partner and you do Jackson. But anyway,
dude, I've shown up to the karaoke bar and had the host come up and bring me a girl and be like, "This is Jessica. She wants to sing Jackson," and I'm like, "Let's get married in a fever. Let's do it." Yeah, great. What the fuck does it have to do with politics? I'm not running for mayor. I'm an asshole on TikTok Live that makes people look like you, look like an even bigger asshole than me. Right, so it might be effective for me to be an asshole in the way that I'm being right now. I don't think it would be effective if I was running for mayor, which I'm not.
I mean, so my town is 6,000 people. We have about a little under 2,000 people who generally vote in the mayoral election. My goal is to be so different and so single issue that I bring out a section of the voter roll that hasn't been brought out in a long time because they're apathetic and they don't think anyone cares about them.
Okay, so like you're being a convincing enough asshole for a small enough sample size of people that you might get what you want for it. Sounds kind of corrupt to me personally.
Weird take on electoral politics. I'm pretty sure that's how everybody literally gets elected to any office. If your idea of politics is that you should be inauthentic so that people will like you, so that you can get in and do what you want, I would say that is politics. That's
not inauthentic. I think the difference is that I'm talking about being tactful versus inauthentic, and I don't think that you see the difference because you're an asshole.
I'm an asshole and I don't care about tactics, because tactics are, again, what people use to keep people in line. They say, this is how we do things. And forgive me if, again, Donald Trump, Spencer Pratt, and a host of other people winning elections around the world have proven that wrong. They've proven that people don't actually want inauthentic. They want real. They want, even if it's messy, even if it's different.
I'm just not addressing that I don't actually think that what I was describing was being inauthentic. You're just continuing to label it inauthentic, even though I don't agree that that's what I was talking about. Do you recognize that being tactful is a thing that matters in certain contexts that's distinct from being authentic versus inauthentic? You can be tactful and authentic at the same time?
Absolutely.
Okay. So do you disagree that the way I was talking about the fact that maybe you shouldn't be bragging about banging hot girls is probably like not a good way to become mayor?
I first off didn't brag about banging hot girls. I'm
going to continue to accuse you of bringing it up on just for the same reason anybody else would brag about it. I think bringing it up at all on my show is bragging. I kind of sent the dig back. I also bragged a little bit, but I'm not running for mayor, dude. I'm just an asshole on TikTok Live talking to you.
I think that what I'm about to present in politics is going to change the game. It's how we fix America from the ground up, and not.
I think Trump changed the game by running on a populist platform, and you're swimming in his shit-filled wake.
I read Art of the Deal when I was in 8th grade. I got my first professor position.
So you've been swimming in his shit-filled wake for a long time. I don't care.
Yeah,
I hate.
Which is why I knew that you guys are bullshit. Because I sort of was following this before it became cool.
Okay. I mean, Trump sucks. So the fact that you've been a fan of him longer than other people is like a self-burn from my perspective. Like, what's your point?
No, I mean, I grew up when he was
touching all those kids with Epstein. Jet setting, flying everywhere, exotic young girls, nubile young specimens. That period of his life. That's when he really won your admiration.
You know what? I think it was when he was in his early 20s, bringing back Manhattan, or maybe when it was him in his older age, sort of redefining entrepreneurship for an entire generation of young Americans.
You said early 20s. Trump is 79. Wait. No. Hold on. You said early 20s, and that's when it was. Trump is 79 years old. Are you suggesting that you've been a fan of Trump for more than 50 years?
No, I'm just saying I was a fan of everything he'd done.
Let's talk about some years. When you became a fan of Donald Trump, roughly what year was it?
Well, in 8th grade, I was let's say 13. So that would have been 2003.
2003. Okay, so it was when he was like a pageant mogul and on TV a lot. Is when you found your adoration.
Probably around
you probably were enamored by all the photographs of Donald Trump standing next to beautiful women. You probably felt that was really important and something to aspire to, right?
Well, since I ended up having a career where I took photos sort of similar to that for about a decade.
Okay.
I have some insight onto that world because it was literally the world I lived in.
Do you think that world treated women well, like that general industry?
I don't think the world in general has treated women well.
Yeah, but specifically, do you think that compared to the average job, if a woman works in that particular industry, do you think that her likelihood of being mistreated is greater or the same or worse than any average woman who doesn't take that career path?
What does mistreated mean?
Yeah,
you know what? By the way, I do have to go. I actually have to go because I realize how long it's been that I've been on this conversation, and we will do this again. But good effort. Good effort. I'd give you.
I agree. I've enjoyed talking to you.
All right, man. Go sing some Johnny Cash.
I will. Well, that was Zach. Yeah, he really gave the politician people are dying every day. I don't know what you're talking about, this COVID or whatever thing. Yeah, women are mistreated everywhere. That's not what I asked, dude. I asked if your industry mistreated women, and you answered women are mistreated everywhere. Suspicious. Red flags from Zach, who's running for the mayor of Hudson. Thank you so much, Hilo the Fila. I can't read usernames. It's my difficulty. But they sent me $10 Canadian on YouTube Super Chat just to say, this is not okay behavior. Boasting about the bedroom behavior, especially in ways that demeans women as adventures from the Bro Academy while trying to self-promote yourself, is gross. Yeah, I agree. I agree thoroughly. Very, very thoroughly. I think, unless we get a caller in the next 90 seconds, I think I'm going to cut the show early today, just a half hour early, because I want to be able to get through the show editing-wise, and I've actually got my evening job. I'm not quitting my evening job because I enjoy it, but I got to be there a little earlier than usual today at 3:30. So I might just wrap the show there. Just so it's every now and then when I have a show that's that dense with such a interesting caller, I like to just wrap the YouTube VOD and make it like a good podcast instead of yapping for a half hour at the end. It's better for the algorithm. Anyway, if you made it all the way through, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, or if you're here with me live, if you're here with me live, you guys know the drill. Linktree in the bio is the way to support me. You can do it for free by following me on the other platforms. If you're new here and you want to do that, you can go do that. Those gets the numbers up for me. I'm almost over 10K on TikTok, which is exciting because I'll be able to do some more monetization stuff, and that'll make a difference for this project for me. The other thing is you can just send me money. Venmo, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, or Patreon are the things I have set up right now. If there's a pay method that you want me to set up that I haven't, you can let me know and I can do that, because, trying to do this right, trying to make a livelihood, trying to be financially responsible, and it's hard to be financially responsible when you're a fucking influencer, but I officially am, because I quit my job. My last day of my day job is next Thursday, and that evening job I was talking about is an evening job that I just like working, that I get 2 to 5 shifts a month at, so it's not about the money for that job anymore. Which karaoke bar? Vegas Lounge? Oh man, it's so easy to get laid at the Vegas Lounge, but I just don't like the type of girl who hangs out there. I like Moose, but that's just because I have a bunch of friends there. But those are kind of on the other side of downtown from me. I live in Whittier, so if I'm looking to walk home drunk at 2 a.m, I will go to the VFW on Lyndale. Bit of a trek, but I don't mind walking that. I would absolutely go sing karaoke with fans. If people wanted to pick a night, we could all go sing karaoke together. That'd be fun. Am I at 10K? Well, okay, here's the thing. On TikTok, my follower count keeps jumping. Right now it says 9878 for me. But there's a number 150 more than that it keeps flipping back and forth for. So maybe I think there's just a different number, and they purged some mods or purged some bots or something, so the number doesn't always update accurately. But I'll get the notification when the TikTok shop tells me all the stuff is unlocked for 10K. So I'll just wait for it. But yeah, I would actually love to go sing some karaoke with like fans. We could pick a night and do the North Loop or something like that. Neely lives in Whittier, but not Minnesota. Sorry, but we can celebrate 10K even if it's not there for everybody. I'll get there. Things are growing fast. The Instagram's still growing real fast, and I got all you guys to thank for it. And there's nobody in the request queue, so short show today because Oscar's busy, but the show will be 10 to 12 Central Time every day except for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. That's listed in the description of my TikTok account, the main TikTok account where this live is hosted from, because those are my last 4 days of my day job that I've quit, and I cannot wait to talk about that after I'm finally done. But thanks everybody for hanging out. Thanks for the donations. Thanks for making my life what it is. Oh wait, did one just come in? I saw a green notification. Was that Cash App? It's always sad when somebody sends me a donation and I see it like right after I click the button to stop being live. Joseph sent me another $10 and said, "Have a great day, bro. Always fun to listen to." Appreciate you so much, Joseph. I know I see your name on the Cash Apps a lot, and I really do appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks everybody. My doing this is pretty fun. It's kind of a lot of work and it's taxing, but it feels important, and I'm having a great time living my life doing this, and I look forward to greater things to come. We got side projects we're working on. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Time.